Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and welcome to the Day 1 recap for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2022 training camp. Shout out to Mikey and Carlos, both guys who I hung out with during this practice today. They also helped me get some footage for this video you are watching now. But yeah, really interesting day of practice today. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about, a good amount of positives and also a few negatives thrown in there here as well. Let's go ahead and start off with what I was paying attention to the absolute most in this practice today, and that was the backup quarterback battle. Blaine Gabbert, the established veteran, versus Kyle Trask. How did both of these guys do? Well, let's start off with Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert had a couple of really nice throws to some wide receivers throughout this practice, which we will talk about in a little bit. He might have thrown an interception at one point. I can't remember if it was Blaine Gabbert or Tom Brady, but Carlton Davis came away with an interception off of one of those quarterbacks that was tipped up into the air, so I won't necessarily fault either one of those quarterbacks depending on which guy did throw that interception. Sometimes plays like that happen, fluky plays, things along those lines. But one negative I will give towards Blaine Gabbert was when they were showcasing the quarterback to wide receiver passing drills. One thing that I noticed Blaine Gabbert doing throughout this practice was 3 or 4 times in a row, he would throw the ball behind his targeted wide receiver, where the wide receiver would have to adjust behind him to catch the football. It happened a handful of times throughout this practice, and it was a little interesting to make a note of, a little bit frustrating, I guess, to see as well if you are a Blaine Gabbert person and want him to be the backup quarterback. But all in all, Blaine Gabbert, he had some positives to his day as well, but I also think he had a handful of negatives thrown in there as well. Meanwhile, Kyle Trask, I thought looked pretty decent throughout this practice. In fact, if we're, kind of taking this on a day-by-day basis, I would say that Kyle Trask won day 1 against Blaine Gabbert here in this training camp so far. Kyle Trask looked very poised, made a couple of really nice throws, positions where Blaine Gabbert may have taken a sack or two throughout the practice. Trask was looking for his checkdowns, and all in all, making these safer plays when he needed to make him. That was a very good thing to see. There was only one pass, and it was at the very, very end of practice where Trask forced it in a double, almost triple coverage. I believe it was triple coverage, actually, and that resulted in an interception. But aside from that, Kyle Trask, I thought, looked very, very good in this practice, and all in all, I thought that he got the better of Blaine Gabbert today in terms of that backup quarterback battle. Not much from Ryan Griffin throughout this practice worth of note. Tom Brady did miss a couple of throws here or there, but he still did some phenomenal Tom Brady things that we are all used to seeing. In the running back room, again, there isn't too much to make a note of, and I will say that is a very similar thing that can be said for things like the offensive linemen and defensive linemen. There wasn't a ton going on there. Seeing Akeem Hicks in person was absolutely amazing. That dude is a gigantic man. He's almost as big as Vita Vea, but again, there isn't too much we can gain from these earlier practices as they're not getting super physical. They're not really going at it too much. So that kind of applies to the running back situation as well. I will say Leonard Fournette looked better in this practice in terms of weight, and you guys can't see it. I used quotations there. I didn't make a video about that story when it had come out because I didn't think it was too big of a deal, and that carried over into this practice. Leonard Fournette looks fine. There's no worries about his weight. He looks fit. He looks healthy, and he is making some good plays. But, aside from that, again, there wasn't too much to make a note of with the running back room. I believe 1 or 2 guys may have had like a dropped pass, like a Kenyon Barner might have dropped a pass, or maybe a Keyshawn Vaughn, something along those lines. But all in all, the running backs looked fine. Now moving on to the wide receivers, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Mike Evans, he had a really good catch throughout practice today. Julio Jones did not practice. I know people are probably going to be asking that. No, Jones did not practice. I expect him to probably be practicing very, very soon here. But a couple of guys who stood out to me in this practice today were Cyril Grayson and Brashad Perriman, who both guys did some really, really good stuff catching the football. Breshad Perriman had a beautiful deep ball catch from Tom Brady that was absolutely great to see. Also, Cyril Grayson had a very similar play with Blaine Gabbert and had a couple of other really nice catches as well. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say that Cyril Grayson looked like the best wide receiver out of the bunch today. He was making some really, really tough catches throughout the practice. He did some really good work, as well as Breshad Perriman. And we've talked about this, right? This 5th, 6th wide receiver battle is going to be a very close, very competitive one. So these guys have got to step up. Nobody else really of note did a ton of interesting things. Kalen Geiger did have a drop, unfortunately, on a really, really good pass from Kyle Trask. So that was an opportunity missed there. Jalen Darden had a couple of nice things going for him, but again, nothing really crazy, super of note. The two main guys who I thought came away looking great out of this first practice were the veterans, Cyril Grayson and Breshad Perriman. In the tight end room, you had a couple of guys making some plays. I thought Kyle Rudolph looked pretty good throughout this practice. There was a couple of low passes that he couldn't necessarily catch from, I believe, Blaine Gabbert and maybe Kyle Trask, and maybe even a little bit of Tom Brady in there as well. But all in all, one thing I was most interested looking at in this practice was how often were they rotating Kyle Rudolph and Cam Brate as the number 1 tight ends. And at least according to my memory, I could be completely wrong on this, but I thought that I saw Kyle Rudolph as the tight end 1 more so than any other guy that was out there. And I thought Rudolph looked good. I thought he looked clean catching the football, still moving around with a good amount of speed and agility. He looked like a very capable veteran tight end out there, which was very encouraging to see. Cam Brate did make a couple of nice plays here or there as well, and we even saw a little bit of Cade Otton make a couple of catches, which was a good thing to see considering the young rookie is still kind of recovering from that ankle injury he's been suffering throughout this offseason. So it was a very, very good thing to see there, as you can see that catch that Breshad Perriman made that I talked about earlier. Yeah, the rookie looked good recovering from that ankle injury. Didn't see much of Ko Kieft. I believe J.J. Howland had a couple of miscues here or there in the tight end room, but all in all, the main takeaways were Kyle Rudolph seems to be getting the most looks as the number 1 tight end, at least in the first practice. Obviously, a lot can change. Cam Brate did a couple of nice things as well, and Cade Otton did a couple of good things in there again as well. I do want to make a note of this. I'm trying to remember who got the interception on Kyle Trask. I believe it was Chris Cooper. I could be completely wrong. If somebody does remember who in the world got the interception off of Kyle Trask, go ahead and let me know. I do know Carlton Davis did get an interception at one point, be it off of either Tom Brady or Blaine Gabbert. I always want to talk about some of these guys on the defensive side of the football who are able to get interceptions and make plays along those lines. And another important thing I want to make a note of was Devin White looked really good in pass coverage today. There was a couple of plays where he was all over a guy like Kyle Rudolph, be it a guy like Cade Otton, be it a guy like Cam Brate. Devin White did a really good job in pass coverage today. He was making a good amount of notable plays. Lavonte David did some good things in pass coverage as well, but I thought Devin White was really the star linebacker in terms of pass coverage today, which is a good thing to see because I know a lot of people wanted to see Devin White improve on his pass coverage abilities, and there is the interception I alluded to earlier, by the way, from Tom Brady, who is who it was. Carlton Davis came down with that interception, but again, good stuff from some of the defensive guys here on the team today. Again, defensive line, offensive line. We will probably be able to get some more looks later on in these training camp practices once pads are on and once guys are getting a little bit more physical. There was some good pressure from guys like Anthony Nelson and some of the defensive linemen, but aside from that, it was a little bit difficult to tell at certain points. But finally, folks, I want to go ahead and end off this video with this, and then I will leave you to the remainder of this footage that I gathered today. The kicking competition, it seemed like Ryan Succop nailed all of his field goals today, at least as far as I could tell. Maybe he missed one if I wasn't paying attention, but at least in terms of my view, it looked like he had made all of his kicks. And then Jose Borregales, I believe he went out there and tried a couple of kicks. Don't remember if he made them or not, but all in all, it seemed like the Buccaneers were focusing on Ryan Succop getting most of the kicks in this practice today rather than splitting it down the middle, which was an interesting thing to see. Seems like, at least in terms of the first practice, they wanted to see what they could get out of Ryan Succop at a various amount of ranges. But Folks, that's pretty much it. All in all, a decent amount of takeaways from this training camp practice today. I thought it was a good practice to be had. A lot of positives to take away out of day number 1, and can't wait to see what continues to happen here in the coming days. I will probably be at training camp tomorrow. If not, I may have somebody attending there who will be able to get me some footage for that, so I'm pumped up for that. And we will be back with a day 2 recap once the practice concludes tomorrow. So anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions about all of these thoughts and notes I have from the training camp practice down in the comments section below. I would love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. I will now leave you with the remainder of this footage, but until the next video or the next live stream, goodbye for now, guys, and go Bucs.